Introduction: The evolution of gender roles. Historical gender roles have evolved significantly over time, reflecting changes in social, economic, and political contexts. Understanding this evolution provides insight into contemporary gender dynamics and the ongoing struggle for gender equality. Early societies. Traditional roles. In early human societies, gender roles were often based on physical differences and survival needs. Men typically took on hunting and defense roles, while women were primarily responsible for gathering and childcare. These roles were foundational but varied across cultures and regions, often influenced by environmental and societal factors. Ancient civilizations. Structured gender norms. As civilizations developed, gender roles became more structured and codified. In ancient Egypt, women could own property and engage in business, while in ancient Greece, women had more restricted roles focused on domestic responsibilities. Ancient Rome saw a mix of roles, with women gaining more rights in some periods but still facing significant restrictions. Middle Ages. Gender and social hierarchies. During the Middle Ages, gender roles were heavily influenced by religious and feudal systems. Women's roles were largely confined to the household and church, while men dominated public and political spheres. However, the medieval period also saw notable women in positions of power and influence, such as queens and abbesses, challenging traditional norms. Renaissance and Enlightenment. Challenging norms. The Renaissance and Enlightenment periods began to challenge traditional gender roles. The rise of humanism emphasized individual potential, leading to increased advocacy for women's education and intellectual participation. Figures like Mary Wollstonecraft argued for gender equality and women's rights, laying the groundwork for future feminist movements. Industrial Revolution. Changing roles. The Industrial Revolution marked a significant shift in gender roles. As economies industrialized, women began to enter the workforce in factories and offices. This period also saw the beginnings of organized efforts for women's rights, including the suffrage movement, which sought to secure voting rights for women and challenge traditional gender expectations. 20th century. Feminist movements and legal changes. The 20th century witnessed major transformations in gender roles, driven by feminist movements and legal reforms. The first and second waves of feminism fought for voting rights, workplace equality, and reproductive rights. Landmark legislation, such as the Equal Pay Act of 1963 and Title X of the Education Amendments of 1972, aimed to reduce gender-based disparities in employment and education. Contemporary perspectives. Gender fluidity and equality. In recent decades, there has been a growing recognition of gender fluidity and the non-binary spectrum. Modern gender roles are increasingly diverse, reflecting a broader understanding of gender beyond traditional male and female categories. This shift has led to greater acceptance of different gender identities and expressions, challenging rigid historical norms. Intersectionality. Expanding the conversation. The concept of intersectionality, introduced by Kimberlé Crenshaw, highlights how gender roles intersect with race, class, and other social categories. This perspective underscores the complexity of gender experiences and the need for inclusive approaches to gender equality that address multiple forms of discrimination. Conclusion: The ongoing evolution. Historical gender roles have evolved from rigid, traditional norms to more fluid and inclusive understandings of gender. This evolution reflects broader social, economic, and political changes and continues to shape contemporary discussions on gender equality and identity. As society progresses, ongoing efforts to address gender disparities and embrace diverse gender expressions remain essential for achieving true equality.